Okay, I think we are live. Um, let's see how we go with this. My internet's playing up a little bit, so I'm just posting up some links in the comments. Okay. Sorry, this is probably a little bit boring for people. Um, okay. G'day, Ramal. How are you, buddy? Hey, Benjamin.
Hi, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, it works.
Hey. Hey, Ramal. Yeah, I'm guessing you don't have a microphone? That's all right. So where are you from, Benjamin?
I'm from Germany.
From Germany.
Yeah.
What time is it for you?
Uh, 19 o'clock, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. It's about a bit past 3 a.m. for me.
Yeah, I read about it. How tired are you already?
Um, not too bad. Not too bad. I've been staying up late all week to try and reset my body clock.
Oh,
So yeah, so I think we're just down to the last couple of hours now. Ramal says it's 1 p.m. for him in Ohio.
yeah. Yeah, I've opened up the chat too.
Hey, Andres.
Hey Wade, finally nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Is it Andres or Andreas?
Andreas,
Andreas. Where are you from?
California.
Not, what time is it for you?
Nice 10 a.m.
Yeah, not too bad.
I thought I was gonna miss the hangout altogether. I might duck out early though.
No, that's all right. I pretty much think we're just gonna chill out here for the last little bit and see how we go.
Nice.
Oh. Sorry, my as you can probably expect, my brain is a little bit all over the place, but it's been a good day.
Yeah, wait, is it like 12 at midnight right now for you?
It's 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh fuck. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I figure I just chill out. I've purposefully trying not to do too much work today.
Yeah, no, like for me, like the past couple of days, it's like I'm not thinking about it. I'm not touching my Kickstarter. I'm not. I'll do an update, but I'm not going to think about what's going on. I'm just going to relax and let things happen.
Cool. Sounds good, man. So so for other people, what are you working on? You've got your own Kickstarter?
Oh, for me?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I was successfully funded. I think 2 days ago now, three. I don't know, two. And for non-player cards, so I got 16,000 out of the 15 that I asked for.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be selling the preview decks that I did at Gen Con. So,
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think I remember talking to you a while ago that you're using the same artist as I used for a couple of my pictures.
yeah, Aaron Eric
Hmm.
worked. Yes. So yeah, we used Aaron. How did you find him? Because I found him on DeviantArt.
Yeah, same for me. I pretty much found it there. We got another person. Welcome, Cameron. How are you?
Pretty good, yeah.
Where are you? Where do you come from?
WA, Western
Oh, very
Australia.
nice.
Very cool.
It's probably an awful time in the morning for you as well.
Yeah, it's 1 on the AM. I just came back from an RPG, actually.
What were you playing?
New World of Darkness.
Oh, cool.
But I'm super excited for Fragged.
Thanks, man.
Well, that's
I'm
why
just
we're here.
gonna keep some headphones in because I'm sure it's echoing.
Actually, no, it isn't. You're pretty clear.
Oh, cool. My old computer used to echo like a... Yeah, used to be really bad.
Usually when your microphone and your speakers pick each other up.
Right, and we've got Ems just joined us.
Yeah, that's me. Hi.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm getting
Hi.
no picture, so I can't quite tell.
Emma
Oh,
Bird.
okay. Well, that's weird.
You should change
That's all
it.
right. No, I think it's working. I'm just not. Yeah, whatever. It's all fine.
This is not 3 o'clock in the morning, so... I feel sorry for you.
Just realized that. Tabletop works like that. Oh shit! It's 3. Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next week so I can try and get my body clock back in order.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how stressful running a Kickstarter is. Just from, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Like you know it's gonna be hard work, but it's even more than you think. I hate it. It was like, oh wow, this is a lot more work than I expected.
I think it's because, like, I think the thing that I found, like, the most work is because I've never done anything like this before, and
Yep.
nobody that I knew, except for Modifius, have ever done it before. So I'm like, how do you do this? What to expect?
And it's actually really great that you have a distributor already signed up with. I mean, that makes your life so much easier from the get-go.
I think now that I'm sitting at the end of the Kickstarter, it's kind of feeling good, but yeah.
Yeah, because that's something I'll have to figure out for my book, for my cards, the NPC cards, when I finish those, is how do I get them into distribution and packaging.
Yeah. Are you using drive-through cards? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, it's a separate. So yeah, Drive-Thru RPGs has a special contract with 2 companies, LightSource, which is their POD regular book printing, and then I completely forget the name of the company that does their cards.
Okay. Yeah, because I used Lightning Source to produce my prototype book.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good, pretty affordable. I mean, I'm not sure how shipping is for you guys. I'm not sure where they're localized, if they have a localized production in Australia.
Well, they don't print here, but they've got like an office in Australia, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh, it's still pretty good.
Well, the print price is fine, but there's kind of got this high setup cost, so it still cost me like $110 or $20 or something like that.
Oof.
So is anybody else here working on their own personal projects?
I'm trying to get into writing, actually.
Okay. What sort of stuff do you like to write?
RPG. Which
Sorry, I missed
uses-
that camera.
Oh, I'm writing a whole setting for an RPG I'm working on, along with a couple of books, ideas. But
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
Hmm.
What,
Are you
is it
making
your own rule system, or is it for another rule system?
I basically just cobbled it to something that looked like it will work. I haven't tested it at all, but it runs under each level in a skill, you have a set of 3d6, and you roll that, and for each one you get at least 1 6, or whatever you need to get a success. That counts as 1 success on that test.
A manipulated
Okay.
cool mechanic. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought of it, and I'm like, ooh, this could work. But the biggest part is writing the whole setting, which
Yep.
I'm sure you ran into.
Yeah, I mean, this is how projects happen. I mean, this is how I started mine. Is I basically a pet personal project, and I just kind of got carried away with it.
Yeah, you've been working on Fragons for now, what was it, 4 years?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years.
Ooh, gosh.
Yeah. Hi, Jerry, Gere. Sorry.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but I think your camera is covered by something.
Yeah.
Looks like a thumb.
Sorry.
Aha.
That's all right.
An icon.
And it says that we've got kids in the background. Hey, kids.
Well, we're child friendly mostly.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm just going. Okay. Now, can you hear me better now?
I can hear you a little bit. Yeah. Where are you from, man?
Okay.
Where
do you mean me?
live? Yeah, where do you live?
In Finland.
What time is it for you?
It's 8 o'clock in the evening. So.
Okay, not too bad then.
Much more reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, the kids are just going to bed, so I just might be able to make it to hear the final hour.
That's all right. We're kind of just going to be chilling out here for a couple of hours.
Right, I got
That sounds good.
Nice, cool. Hey, Em, we can see your picture now.
Hi, yeah. I'm actually Moritz. I recently wrote some emails.
Morris, how are you, man?
Yeah, great, thanks.
That's good. Where are you from?
I'm from Berlin, so yeah, same time as Benjamin.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
And Ramal says that he's working on a card game. Each player takes the role of a game master. You build a party and lead them through sessions and earn fame. You are competing to be the most famous GM in town. That's right. I remember reading about your idea a while ago. It sounds pretty cool. My housemates and I really like to play. Well, we haven't played it for a little while now. Munchkin, but a couple of those guys they'd never really played RPGs before, so they didn't quite get a lot of the in-jokes.
Munchkin's a good gateway game.
I think so. I think Munchkin is horrible if it's really played extremely brutal. Like I had a group some years ago, we always played so brutal. It's either you liked the style or you hated it. I played with another group once and they absolutely hated how mean I was. But it's Munchkin. You had to be mean.
Supposed to be.
That's right. Hey Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, man.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you very much. Where are you from?
I'm from the UK.
Cool. What time is it for you?
About 6:30.
Nice. And we've got Kaomi. Sorry, I'm not quite getting your audio through.
Getting everyone else.
Oh, hello. There we go. We're getting something.
Yep.
Wait, I'll be back.
Every time Wade's one jumps up on the screen lights up. Someone's been a little bit my room.
Is it too late?
That's all right. This Google Hangout thing's weird. I'm slowly getting the hang of it a little bit, but
Q&A is a weird thing. When I first did a Q&A, I really screwed it up because I didn't set it up before I started the Hangout.
yeah, because that's right. You need to select Q&A before you start the Hangout.
Or else you have to cancel it, resend the link to everyone, and
Yeah.
yeah, that happened to me.
I made the amateur's mistake of trying to log in via Frag's Google Plus page rather than the link,
Oh,
which just messed everything up for ages.
yeah, the link is safer.
Well, I just clicked on the Q&A. It looks like we actually got a couple of questions. I think someone was having trouble hearing me, but I'm not quite sure.
Oh, Q&A.
I don't know. Sorry. I'm just clicking around and looking at things.
I
Huh.
don't know, I think you're ignoring us.
Sorry. Out amongst yourselves.
Awkward silence.
That's all right.
So while I could get the Q&A to work for the questions when I did it through the Frag page, I can't get it from here.
Huh.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. I mean, we're just chatting, so it's just whatever.
I didn't even know I could ask.
The Q&A that shows up on the left bar when you mouse over it, that Q&A?
Yeah, that's what. It's a place where people can ask questions, and then yeah.
But I don't see how to submit questions. I can read what people have.
I
I
think
guess-
if you open up a second tab based from the Fragged Empire's Google Plus page, you should be able to ask it there.
Okay. Interesting.
I think because I think the way Google Hangout works is you can invite viewers and then actual guests, and since you guys are guests, I think it's assuming that you're supposed to be running the show. I don't know.
We think we know what we're doing and what we're talking about, of course.
All right. And hello, Morton. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you from?
Denmark.
Ah,
For you. What time is it for you, Morton?
1924.
Oh god, it's 1:30. I can't do the math.
That's actually one thing that's really surprised me so far as I get more involved in the gaming community is how international tabletop is. That I just didn't realize, I guess, like outside of your niche, you're like, oh, there are gamers elsewhere? Really? I thought we were just a cult.
I think the internet is really good for niche groups, because I don't know, you type in indie such and such and such and such and such and such, 3 descriptors, and you're going to end up with 2 groups, and that'll be everyone in the world that's into those 2 things, and yeah.
Yeah.
So have any of you guys done role-playing over the internet, using a Roll20 system?
I used to play on the old Obsidian forums before they uphold them and I couldn't figure it out anymore.
Okay.
I played Eclipse Phase over the internet with some of my friends.
Roll20 or?
No, Eclipse Phase has D100 system.
Okay. There's an online system called Roll20 that's like a digital map and things like that. Or did you just use email or Skype or something like that?
Basically, it was I was home Skyping, and the rest of the guys were over the one of my friend's house. So basically, I was the only one playing through Skype. So it was.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think I've played a game like that. Some friends of mine had one of their mates from America join us, and I think they set up the iPad on the table with the camera or something like that.
Yeah, we are usually we are using the similar type when let's say one of the guys doesn't make it. So last year one of my friends was a year in France, so we played like 5 times, and he joined 4 of those through Skype. So
Okay, cool. Morton has a cool picture. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Ain't nothing wrong with a monkey.
I love it. I feel like getting you to talk more just so your little picture comes up more often.
The cool thing about the monkey is actually the picture is one it took itself. A photographer he left his camera in a park somewhere, and then the monkeys came, and well, you can see they do the same thing as humans when they discover a camera, taking silly pictures of themselves.
Alright.
Hmm.
Oh.
Who here has read the
Okay, so
alpha rules already?
Pardon, sorry?
I'd like to know who has read the alpha rules already, because
yeah.
I couldn't wait and read them all.
Yeah, that's right. So the way that I'm doing the playtest is that in a couple of weeks I'm going to send out a PDF to people. But there's been a couple of people that have been really keen to start playing right away. So they've just sent me a message, and I've collected a few emails and have been sending out the alpha rules. So the version that comes out in a couple of weeks will be a bit more polished than the alpha rules, just because I'm neatening up some stuff. But if anybody wants to get their hands on the alpha rules, just send me a message in Kickstarter. I think I'm going to send out a bunch tomorrow. But if you're happy to wait a couple of weeks, then you get a more polished version.
Well, this setting you got for Fragged is just like perfect for all the things I was after in a sci-fi one. I'm just like, can't wait to get my hands on the rules, man.
Thanks, bro.
I'll probably send one of those messages.
That's all right. I'm getting like the playtest will be mainly about the rules and stuff, because I'm working with, because we're doing a bunch of extra books now, I've had to get some extra writers on board, just to help me get through that. So the full setting information won't be out for a while, but we'll see if we can make these rules more polished. The more playtesting, the better. If any of you are working on your own projects, just playtest, playtest, playtest. Don't stop playtesting.
Definitely.
Like Portal. Tests must continue.
That's right.
Hopefully not with a homicidal robot involved.
And a companion cube. Your most faithful friend. And at the end
We got Alan joined us.
Yeah,
Nice.
I thought I was joined, but I guess I was just watching the feed, so I'm here now.
Oh, cool. Where are you from?
I live in Eugene, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest in the United States.
Cool.
Cool. What time is it for you? It's like standard question we're asking everyone.
Yeah, 10:30, same as California.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I've got to say that I've gone from sort of wanting to check out Fragged Empire as something that was interesting to actually wanting to play it as of last night, because I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's just sort of
Nice.
now I really want to play.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a great jump stone, you know. Hey, if you liked Guardians of the Galaxy, try Fragged Empire. We're almost the same thing.
No spoilers though. I'm gonna see it on Tuesday, so a couple of days time.
Nice.
Do you have it yet in Australia, or?
yeah, I just watched it today.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Definitely here in WA.
Usually they're pretty good about movie releases, having them universal, if not only a week off or so, maybe a month at most. Because distribution.
Is it because of Australia's copyright laws that it's quite difficult to get games there, or is it something else?
Mostly Australians' economy is a lot more expensive than a lot of other countries.
We call it Australia tax.
Yeah, we get paid more, but also we get charged more for everything. And the game industry has basically realized that they just charge us more because we're willing to pay it.
That sounds like California.
Okay.
And the UK.
It costs you a lot.
And Denmark as well.
I've heard of that, yeah. Who started that? Yeah. Actually, wait. One question I had about Fragget, I don't know if I completely missed it or I didn't completely read it, but what is the state of civilization, I guess? Because 200 years after Great Event, and now I guess it's kind of like Firefly-esque, without the major Republic group, so kind of loose communities, or small cities, loose communities.
So the way that I've envisioned it is it's 100 years after the war,
100.
but for that 100 years has mostly been fairly like tribalistic, and it's only recently that the races have rediscovered space travel.
Okay.
So what you've got is each of the races have some big cities, sort of on their home planets, but there's kind of lots of small colonies because they're just starting to colonize and explore their own solar system and beyond. So you've got a lot of tiny little new settlements and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the you destroyed all the mass relays kind of scenario and all technical.
Had to bring that up, didn't you?
I mean, despite the endings were horrible as is. But it was just the first thought that came to my mind. Like, oh, you know, people got stranded, and they're just getting back into ships again.
Yeah, I mean, the post-apocalyptic setting is pretty popular in science fiction for a reason, because it just facilitates so many stories.
Well, the stories are usually boring if you're all living in a utopia, you know, and nothing is wrong.
Well, that's where George Orwell comes in.
I guess it's sort of like conflict makes good games. You need some form of conflict, be it
tension and conflict.
Yeah. Something for the characters to contend with or to contend against. I guess you could make a utopian society kind of work, but it would have to be like maybe threatened by something else.
It'd be Star Trek-ish, you know. It's like utopian society, but if we don't obey their rules, they're gonna be pretty pissed, and then they're no longer to be utopian.
We're post-scarcity, but we still have money for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. Credits? Of course we take credits. The international standard. Or interstellar standard. What are you doing for currency? Since I've mentioned...
Credits!
Yeah, so I actually treat currency pretty loosely in Fragged Empire. Mostly because the corporates are the ones that have invented or reinvented currency and banks and stuff like that, and they're trying to get the other cultures to use their money system.
Of course.
But the Keltorans have none of that. They're quite happy with their barter system.
Okay.
What's the basis for their economy for the corporates? Is it all money is debt, or is there some other form of money there?
Everything has a price.
So all money for the corporates, their primary thing that they produce is fuel, because their space stations are orbiting a gas giant called Alabaster, and they get helium-3 out of that. So each credit chip is attached to the value, the stock value of the energy market.
So it's a helium standard.
Yeah, pretty much. It's purposefully ridiculously stupid and complicated. So
Well, that's stock.
from a game perspective, it's easy because it's credits. You know, they're like dollars, but all the back end stuff and the banks and everything like that, it's unnecessarily complicated because that creates interesting, convoluted, complex stories and plot ideas for people.
Yeah, no, that's great because if you discover another gas giant or something like that, that changes things.
Or
Yeah.
hell, way of getting helium-3 that doesn't require a gas giant.
Or that. What do you mean? The new microwave propulsion technology?
Well,
That's
I read about it the other day. It's sweet.
It needs to be tested more.
no doubt.
Have you thought about one of the implications of it? Which is that, in space there's basically no stealth. Anything that's moving around has a trail of ionized atoms, you're visible. If there's no particulates being emitted, then it's going to be a really quiet drive. It's going to be something that's going to be difficult to spot compared to any other form of drive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of that too is, remember, propulsion, you only need to get acceleration to a certain point, and once you hit that speed, you maintain that speed until you try and stop yourself. So, the fun part about gravity, I mean, not gravity, space, lack of gravity.
Lack of gravity.
Yes, lack of gravity.
About the propulsion thing, I read something on the internet which was basically, regardless of how airtight you make a spaceship, it's always leaking hydrogen, because hydrogen is so slippery, it basically slips through the hull. So even if you've got...
Yeah, keep going, sorry.
Even if you've got a drive that gives you no particulates, you're still leaking air and like tiny amounts, but you're still leaking.
Yeah,
trail.
atom's the smallest you can go. That's interesting. You'd have to put an electrical current or a magnetic current to probably keep it in.
Yeah. But it's like if you're running on silent, then you probably don't want to emit a magnetic field that someone could pick up. So
yeah,
obstacles.
I think we're thinking about this way more than we're waiting.
I find it interesting. From a production standpoint, there's sort of like I've got limited number of pages in the book, so I have to kind of prioritize where do I put the depth and where do I not put it. So I'm probably not going to go into the detail of hydrogen leaking out of hulls. But I am doing a science and technology part of the book, and one really cool thing about hydrogen is that you can actually it can run multiple different types of engines. You can even use it for combustion engine or more advanced stuff like that. So it's very useful because you can have this singular fuel source, but have multiple types of engines and ships.
That's cool. So different cultures are going to be using different engines, but they're all using the same fuel stuff.
But by and large, yeah. So I've actually even got rules for people having my spacecraft rules. I've still got to finish those.
Yeah, and don't forget the travel, the kilometers, or kilometers per day per spaceship graph. We love those.
Yeah. So I will get on the spacecraft rules. But I've got rules in there so you can select what type of engine you got. You can even have a combustion engine if you really want to.
Oh, God.
Some terrible Keltoran engine that smokes everywhere and makes their crew wear goggles all the time or something like that.
I think you may be pushing a little bit too into the Mutant Chronicles there.
Yeah, I don't want to push too much that direction.
Now that we are on the subject of technology, how hard would you say the science is?
I think I'm definitely not. It's definitely not a hard science setting like sci-fi setting, but I do like there being a scientific reason, or at least some sort of quasi-plausible explanation towards a lot of stuff. One thing that you'll notice about my setting is that it's largely absent like of magic or like black box type stuff. So if anyone is not familiar what black box technology is, it's that idea of black box, it does something, and there's no explanation of how it works. And magic is, by and large, usually a bit of a black box technology for a lot of settings. I have some things that like aren't explained and a mystery, but I'm trying to avoid things that just work just cause. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a hard topic to explain.
Science.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will actually come down to the GMs. I'm erring on the slight side of a little bit more plausibility, but I really feel it's up to GMs to tweak their game to...
I got a real... Also.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I got a real Outlaw Star vibe from it. Sort of 90s anime, mix of relatively hard sci-fi and sort of chi magic crammed together. Really weird anime. Very cool.
Huh. Wait.
Yep.
In some of the things you mentioned psionics, but you never really go into any detail. Like, is that 40k psionics or you know?
Yeah. So with psionics, I've got kind of the rules for that in the core rule book, but I haven't gone fully into the explanation behind it because that's something I'd like to do in a future book a lot more. But generally with psionics, it's definitely not 40k psionics.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and with psionics, I wanted to give it a very clear focus as to what it does. So psionics is all about primarily your mind, so like reading people's minds or like mind control type stuff, and a little bit to do with time. Okay, so you do get a little bit of fortune telling and a little bit of slightly weirder time type stuff.
Wibbly wobbly time stuff.
That's right. The way that I've done a lot of stuff in my setting is trying to avoid overlap. So, for example, I've got telekinesis. There's a thing called electrogravity in my setting, but that's a technology-based thing that people have. So psionics will never have telekinesis because I don't want it to overlap with another technology. In the same way that you won't get technology-type stuff start doing what psionics do.
So you'll never get a mind-reading box or something like that.
Pardon, sorry, I missed that.
So you'll never have like, I have a box here. It allows me to read minds.
Yeah, so you won't get that mind controlling type or mind reading technology and stuff like that.
Seems to make sense.
Yeah. So the psionic that stuff's really connected to like the ley lines and what on earth's going on there, because the idea is that psionics arrived when Exion and the war happened. So it's something that's new, and it's sort of it's sort of the Archons didn't make it, the humans didn't make it. We don't know where it came from. Let's figure this out because something else is going on. Something else is at work in the universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I gotta hop out. I got stuff to do this morning. So pleasure joining you guys.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and my pleasure actually seeing you. I'll probably talk to you more on IGDN. Or
Cool. Yeah. That'll be good.
All right. Cool. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, man.
Congratulations on the Kickstarter.
Thank you. And congratulations on yours too. Cool. Did anybody else have any other questions? Otherwise, we're just sort of chilling out here until the Kickstarter ends.
Yeah, I already read the rules, and a few things sprang to mind. I won't remember all of them, but resources and influence, there's this part with the traits and with the NPCs, which I want to or I'd like to hear your balanced opinion about it. So generally, traits make you stronger. Some are more combat focused, some are less combat focused, and all this influence and resources traits seem so partly combat focused. So no direct influence, but you can have better equipment. But on the other hand, the sole balancing factor for NPCs is how much resources you have. So if you get a resource trait, the NPCs get stronger, but if you get a trait that just deals more damage or makes you better hit or more defense, so the NPCs don't get stronger. What's the reasoning behind this?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good question. I think this is something that I had to be a little bit careful of, because for me, the amount of resources that you have as a player is the primary determiner of how strong you are in combat. And so, just for people who aren't familiar with the rules, the more resources you get, so that means you can have more combat equipment, but that also means that the NPC difficulties also scale upwards. So as you get more resources, your NPCs get stronger. And that's just to keep fights and that interesting. So what Benjamin was asking, if I understood correctly, is because you can get traits, and some traits can give you a lot of combat ability. So what happens if you're maxing all your traits into combat? And that's going to unbalance this, because even though you're getting more combat traits, your resources aren't necessarily going higher. Is that right? Have I understood your question right?
It's kind of the opposite reasoning I came to this, but yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So what I've got is so you'll find that resources really determine about easily sort of 80% of your combat ability. Well, I mean, taking out player skill, of course. So the idea is that the traits, some of the traits are much more hardline combat stuff, but you'll find that some of them are good at non-combat stuff, but the non-combat stuff, let's say you're a really good merchant or like a trader, okay, like you're good at using your spare time points, that can actually feed back into your combat ability. So let's say you've actually got the scientist character, he's selecting lots of research traits. Those research traits, some of them will go back into his combat ability because he'll be able to tweak his weapons and stuff like that. That's the sort of the more complicated answer. The short answer is it's not perfectly balanced. And I've not aimed for a perfectly balanced combat system, because I want to factor in there's a little bit of like skill in there and a little bit of flexibility, and I want to encourage players to fight intelligently, because combat doesn't reward you with XP and things like that. So does that kind of help? Sorry, it's a bit of a tricky thing to answer.
Yeah, I guess I have to really playtest this and don't trust read. I'm yeah, I don't have the feeling how mighty resources are, but a real feeling I just felt, yeah, you can make characters where they are not that important. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about, because I've given players a reasonable amount of flexibility in terms of what traits they select and making their own weapons and stuff like that. You can actually make a character that's a little bit underpowered, like that. That's just an inevitable outcome of giving people that flexibility. But I'm pretty happy with the balancing of the system, and I'm really interested to see how people go in the playtest, because the playtest is going to be vital for that, because people are going to think of ideas that I haven't thought of, and you need to tweak the numbers a little bit, and that's good, because you want a rule system that's really balanced. You want one that's really robust, and the playtest is going to be key to that.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing some models, yes, some simulation with my PC. I'm a programmer myself, and I don't know if I will find a group anytime soon. And maybe I join the Roll20 guys, but I'm not sure about it right now. So yeah, maybe I run some simulations, but I'm not sure how it will be going for me.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. I actually, I think there's a lot of role players that actually collect role-playing books but don't necessarily get to play them. I know I've got a couple that I haven't really played before, but I really like them because they're beautiful books with great art and stories, and I'm a bit of I love my rules, I love my mechanics, and I like reading about other people's ideas, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some rulebooks on my shelf. I've never really played two. I have one I would really like to game master or play sometimes, but yeah, finding a group for it is pretty tough because most of my friends are more the fantasy type and I'm more the cyberpunk sci-fi type.
Yeah, cool. I think I've been pretty lucky with the amount of role players that I've found where I live. But it does take a while to try and find a group. Yeah.
Why do you think it is that fantasy seems to take up so much more of the game space than science fiction?
It's easier.
I'm not sure. What do other people think? I've got my own thoughts. What do other people think on this topic?
I really think it's easier because a lot of settings have a lot of similarities. You have your basic elves and orcs and dwarves and stuff, and some sort of magic. How high-powered magic is varies, but yeah, the rule varies, but the setting it is the same. Of course, it varies widely too, but not as much as sci-fi settings, because something like Fragged Empire is totally different from Shadowrun or 40k. So I had a Firefly group, and that's another setting completely than, yes, something like 40k. So.
Another big part of it, I think, is most people have at least familiarity with, the past and people stabbing each other with swords, that sort of thing. So to apply yourself to a fantasy setting is a lot easier than going, well, we've got, people who jump through warp gates and that sort of thing. Like, you can't put yourself in that space as easily.
So I'm just going to answer. A couple of people asked a couple of questions. I'm just going to answer these before I do this. So there was a question about, can you add add-ons after the Kickstarter has ended? Yes. So we're going to have a system called Backer Kit, and I'm going to give everyone a link to that, and you'll be able to go there and you'll be able to define exactly what add-ons you want, put in your postal address, your email address, so I can get the goods to you. You'll also be able to up your pledges if you want, or if you missed the Kickstarter, you can become a pledger there. So I just wanted to answer that question. There was another question, which is, will there be interplanetary sandbox rules? I'm not quite sure I understand that question. I've got rules for going between planets and space travel, but I haven't got any, for example, charts for rolling up a random world and what it's made of and stuff like that. I think there's some good stuff online that will let you do that. I'm sorry, you might need to re-ask that question more specifically. Cool. Okay, so back to the fantasy thing. What do other people think? Why does fantasy dominate the RPG scene as opposed to science fiction?
I think that people are looking for something, kind of an escape from reality. So even though science fiction is obviously typically takes place far into the future, typically you're still using vehicles and guns and computers and things like that. I don't know. I feel like even for myself, I traditionally always played fantasy games. I played Shadowrun and a few other games, Rift back in the day. But it's just kind of fun to kind of invent, your own world. I think there's a lot more that you can get away with in a fantasy setting that, in terms of unbelievability, you can just kind of make something up, and I think it's a little bit easier to just kind of let it flow, and just whatever goes. And of course, there's a lot of material out there that, books and things like that have been written that attracts a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah, I find it really interesting having a think about the difference between science fiction and fantasy. And I think you guys have pretty much hit the nail on the head, is that, to me at least, science fiction in many ways is usually a commentary on the present. So we grab something from the present and our understanding of how the universe works or how our culture works, and then we sort of extrapolate that and throw it into the future. Whereas fantasy seems to be a little bit more, I don't know, it's like grabbing a creative theme or an idea and then running with it. Yeah, a little bit less founded in the now.
I find some of it is also, you're a lot more exposed to fantasy. Lord of the Rings movies, for example.
Yeah. What's about the Star Wars movies? I guess it's the most famous sci-fi, or with most fans.
It's more fantasy and space than true sci-fi, though.
Yeah, I think so too, but whenever I mention it, no, it's sci-fi, you have got spaceships, it's not fantasy. Yeah, but Jedi.
But see, I've actually noticed recently there's been a little bit of a move towards merging, it's been around for ages, but merging fantasy and science fiction together a little bit. So, for example, 40K is a big one that does that.
Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Well, there's Wildstar as well.
Yep.
Oh, Wildstar. One day
To a certain extent, that's been there for years, though. You could look at John Carter of Mars, sort of the books, as it were, not the film. So there's always been an element of science myth, science fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's kind of... I read a sci-fi novel a while ago called The Martian, and it's a really sort of hard science science fiction book. You know, an astronaut gets trapped on Mars and him trying to survive. And that was a really fascinating read for me because I'm used to reading more, you know, cyberpunk or a bit more fantastical science fiction. It was really refreshing to read something that was a little bit harder. But I could definitely see how it has less appeal because it's much more to do with numbers and, you know, just chemicals and, you know, a bit more science in there. It's a bit heavier intellectually, which, quite frankly, we don't always go to a book for that because we want to chill out. Like, we don't always want something super deep and hard and, yeah.
I recently finished reading Neptune's Children, also Neptune's Brood by Charlie Strauss, and that's a great sort of heist story, but it's all about how to defraud bitcoins in a universe where you have to have economies that go between star systems, but the speed of light can't be broken. And that's really, you know, I don't see that the hardness of the science needs to get in the way of a good story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I take it a lot of us here have been GMs, you know, and as GMs, we're all story makers. Like, we're all creative individuals, and trying to strike that balance of, like, you know, trying to come up with an interesting story that's engaging and fun, because that's really what RPGs come down to, fun.
Every time I see a typical depiction of like a GM who wants to kill all his characters off and all the player characters off in a game, I'm just like, that's not how you should be playing the game. No, don't do it. It's wrong.
But the unfortunate thing is, I dare say that we've all met those GMs or maybe been those GMs for a session or two, because I admit I've had a couple of sessions where I really want to just thump my players a bit, but mostly because they make horrible bad choices.
Well, horrible bad choice is just part of the game, especially when it elbows in their faces.
That's 3/4 of being a player right there. Horrible bad choices.
Yeah, I think after time as a GM you learn if there's a horrible choice for the players, they will choose it. If there's no choice, horrible choice for the players, they will still choose it.
Yeah.
They'll do anything that's possible to make the worst choice at the worst possible moment, and you will just sitting in your desk and going, "Oh God, how do I fix this?"
But I think one of the things that I've loved the most is those game sessions where they've gone off the rails, but the GM or I, like as the GM, have managed to somehow pull it together, you know. And I think those can be interesting rides for as a GM as well, you know, learning to tell a story ad lib and making it up as you go along, and it still being great.
Well, that's part of the whole emergent storyline that's great about RPGs. I'm saying, like, when they make horrible choices, and you try to figure out how not to kill them.
Oh, player deaths. I think that's what's kind of like an old thing about, are you the GM that would kill a player, or are you not the GM that kills a player?
I try not to because I have to live with one. My sister's playing in my game, and she just never forgives me.
Have you guys come across...
Go ahead. You go.
Okay. Have you come across the movement of especially Dungeons and Dragons DMs who are like, no, you must play the encounter to its hardest possible way. You know, these monsters cannot possibly think in any way less than perfect logic. They will do everything they can to kill the players. If you don't do it, you're doing a disservice to your players.
I actually have come across that style of role-playing before. So myself, I'm a really tactical person in terms of, like, I really like thinking stuff out very thoroughly, and I think I actually used to GM like that when I was younger. Now, the problem is, though, that I think that that's a misunderstanding of what a role-playing game is for. Now, that being said, you can just do dungeon crawl games, and I think they're perfectly valid. I think the important thing is to, as at the start of your game, tell your players what style of game is this going to be. Is this is going to be a hard tactical dungeon crawl, I'm going to try and kill you type game, or is this we're going on an adventure, we're going to have character development, and we're going to have like relationships with like NPCs and each other, and we're going to grow and change, and define what sort of a game you've got. The biggest trouble is when the GM's got an idea in his head and the players have a different idea in their head, and expectations miss each other, and everyone just ends up dissatisfied.
Oh yeah.
That's just me. That's how I approach it.
Having a social contract at the table is really important. Being able to know where everyone's coming from is a saviour.
Yeah, and it helps. Like that was I really wish I had have learnt that lesson earlier. Sorry, we got a siren in the background.
Sorry, I tried to mute it, but obviously the switch doesn't work.
That's all right.
Yeah, I live close to the hospital. I hear it from time to time, and I'm used to it. But yeah.
I used to live near a park where they used to land helicopters all the time for like a hospital, and so we'd get them all. Yeah, I understand a bit. Yeah. What style of games do you guys like to play? Like, what's your favorite? Like, do you like sandbox horror? Do you like real relationship character type stuff, or sort of hard combat ones? What do you guys like to do?
For me, it depends if I'm... Oh. Go, Ben.
I'm a real big fan of creating this big setting with these big characters and then throwing my players at it and like putting in a couple of story seeds at the very start and then just running with it from there. Because like I'll go away between settings and come up with 12 different things for them to do, and then they'll go, no, we want to do this one, which is not one of the 12, and I'm like, yes, this is the right choice. Like, I like seeing my players do well and surprise me, basically, because it then makes me happy because I have to think of something else. And
that's cool.
I think I'm guilty of overthinking my settings and adventures, and of course, players never want to play along. So, but I like to make like grand, like story arc type things, and try to make it pretty obvious what I'm going for. But inevitably something goes wrong, or you end up playing 3 game sessions, kind of outside of the main story, and then you kind of get them back into it. But yeah, I like to think of really big. Like I had one where I had this whole big adventure, and they travel all throughout the world and chasing, basically chasing this group of people that had stolen something, and yeah, and then I grew up just playing kind of hack and slash, just kind of make it up on the seat of your pants type games too. So those can be fun.
That's cool. That's cool. Have you ever had the situation where a subplot has become the main plot, or the players have been more interested by it? Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, in a D&D session, actually, I just kind of randomly threw in a time travel scenario, and we pretty much ended up in the alternate timeline, like, for most of the rest of that particular campaign. And we never really got back on track to what the original game was about, but that was okay. Everything kind of changed in the alternate timeline, and people really liked that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's because of like a reason where you can't really tend to have you just have a general idea of the adventure, and then just let the players run by themselves. Because the players, if they're interested in something, they will latch onto it no matter what you do.
Mm. It's kind of a bit of an art form, learning how to get your players to be interested, and I feel like knowing your players helps with that a lot. Like if you're like, okay, say my old regular gaming group, I knew there was one guy, shout out to Bo, he really loved his science and his research. All I need to do was put one little mystery in a session and he's happy. Like that's all he wants is like one thing to learn something, to study something, and he's great. Yeah.
I know that I have quite different tastes as a player and as a GM stroke writer. As a player, I just like the opportunity to do awesome things. I used to play quite a lot of Exalted, so being able to jump off a building, surf down the tiles on a shield, and then smack someone with a sword twice my size is quite fun. But as the other side, I really just I now constantly go to horror and really personal horror, and that's all I really enjoy running.
What's the attraction about a horror styled game for you as a GM?
Exploring ideas intimately. So you find something that worries you or you think is interesting, and you explore why it's scary. For instance, you could explore something like modern politics. You could look at a really good example of just coming up with a horror plot off the top of my head would be, okay, so banking at the moment is really kind of a scary thing. So what makes it scary? And you dig into that, and you then turn banking into the monster, and thereby you get something really fun, and that challenges your players, challenges you, and maybe, if you're really, really lucky, scares them.
Beware the wrath of Bangor! Lord Banks.
I love the fact that you were using banking as your analogy there. It's like, no, we're not going to pick like some monster or some alien or some body horror. Oh no, banking.
Well, you would. Banking is the monster, but you make a monster out of banking. You take. A better example would be I'm currently finishing off a scenario that's going to be part of the rewards for the Miskatonic University podcasts Indiegogo, and in that the horror comes from our memory. Our memory is pretty shoddy, but we give it a great deal of respect. We trust our memory implicitly. If we remember something, it's true, except most of the time what actually happened is quite different to what we remember happening. We build up our assumptions about who other people are based on our memory. So what happens when you get a letter from a friend you have no memory of, telling you that your best friend that you remember has taken their life? That's kind of taking an idea and turning it into the source of horror.
Actually, that's really cool idea. I love it. You grab this pillar of our confidence as a person and something that we really depend on, and I don't think any of us could depend on much more than our own memories. That's cool. I like it.
And it's all real. I mean, the fact is that, for instance, if you were a juror and you had a person give you a witness statement saying, I saw this person, he did this, you'd trust it more than, say, forensic evidence or any other evidence other than a visual thing showing you the person there from a camera or something. And yet, witness statements are hugely unreliable. Loads of research on it. They're just bad. So it's not as though I'm even taking an idea and going, "Ooh, wouldn't it be cool if?" It just is that way, and it's finding the horror in that.
That's cool. I like it.
Did any of you guys play Remember Me?
Briefly. Not really.
Yeah. I really like the story. Maybe, yeah, I think it's kind of cool. You start as a character with no memory, and there's this technology to manipulate memories of yourself and of others. And your main character, are really excellent with this. You can change memories from others, and so change their behavior. And as the story goes on, it kind of gets fucked. So yeah, I changed this memory, and then I change the guy having the memory of this memory, and so a layer upon layer, and it really takes long for you to find out what really happened. So yeah,
that's cool.
I started playing it. I've not finished it yet.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil the whole end.
I think it's something I'm probably going to have to watch as a let's play, because I'm finding the game a little bit to play. So, but it's really cool story-wise. So,
Ben, I got a quick question for you about your memory horror game.
Yeah.
So, do your players appreciate the amount of thought and depth you're putting into your games?
I hope so. Talking of memory, I can't actually right now remember if I've run this for my group.
Okay.
I think I've run a playtest of it, and they did. Yes, I did, and they really enjoyed it. Not sure that they sort of got the full depth of it. I hope they did, but
It's cool. I think there's always a bit of as a GM, we kind of know that our players aren't going to get everything that we prepare, but that's all right.
Yeah.
You can always fold them back up and put them into new things. That's what I often do. I'll have like an idea and I'll go, this idea just isn't going to work for the campaign I'm running. Well, back to the folder with it. It'll come up later.
Yeah, Google Docs is my friend.
Yeah.
I grew up playing with the same role-playing group for my whole teenage years, and then I ended up moving to the city, and I had to find new players to play with, and that was a really interesting experience for me as a GM, because that was the first time in my life that I got to reuse ideas. I got to grab some of my favorite old campaigns that I ran years and years before, brand new players, I get to use it again. It was fantastic.
Yeah, speaking of horror, I keep subjecting a friend of mine because he's often the one that can play when no one else can, and by accident, he keeps getting the modules I've created that are basically horror modules, and I'm like, I'm really sorry about this, Brendan. You just keep stumbling into the wrong ones. But none of them are actually themselves horror. There's not like horrible, grisly monsters. It's just I put him in scenarios that him, having played a lot of games, goes, this is a horror scenario. I should be worried. So I'm like he explores a dank sewer with lots of empty rooms and that sort of thing, and he's like, something's going to get me in one of these rooms, right? I'm like, I'm not saying.
I find it, it's funny how sometimes players, like as much as GMs can learn about players, players can also learn about GMs, so they kind of get a bit of a feel for what's coming up. So one of my things that I love doing in my games is I love adding sort of this twist. So You know how like you watch the movies, like for example, I mean one of the best ones is Fight Club. You know, you watch Fight Club through, and then right at the end is the twist. Don't worry, I'm not giving the plot away for anyone who hasn't seen it. But then you
limitation on these things. You can probably talk about it by this point, I'm sure.
No, I'm still holding back because I don't know. It is probably old enough that I probably can. Anyway, so you watch it through, and then right at the end is a twist, and you go, oh, how did I miss that? And then you re-watch it, and you can see it all the way through, like it's really obvious. I love doing that for my games. Like it's one of my favorite things to do, is to have some character and he's not what people think he is, and then when he reveals himself, they go, oh, that explains all this other stuff that we just sort of overlooked, or I love doing that. Anyway, I was playing a game, and we did that, and the players weren't trusting me on anything I said. Any NPC say something, they're always like, really? And they start checking everything, and I'm like, oh, damn it. They've got like a reputation, and they're ruining all my games because they're reading into everything.
And then what you have to do is run 3 games where you have none of that. It's just everything goes as it appears. Lull them into a new false sense of security.
Yeah, I'm getting to a stage where I need to seriously change my style of GMing for a little while and just run something very different, I think.
It can be refreshing, like mixing it up a bit, but I think for me, I've been playing Fragged Empire for like a few years, like just constantly for so long now. I kind of find it hard to think about a different rule system for me, and I think that's just that's all right. I'm happy with that, but yeah.
Well,
I like to mix it up with some board games every now and again, give me my diversity.
But in terms of horror, though, like you know, a system that really lends itself well is the Eclipse phase system, because all transhuman, exceptionism, it makes, like, I once read them from my friends, they didn't know what to think about it. They were just completely confused about the entire thing, about like how they die and their memories can be taken away by going to a new body, and also of this very hard science concepts.
I'm having that exact problem right now. I'm running Eclipse phase for one of my groups, and they're just not getting it at all.
It's a very hard science RPG, one of the hardest ones out there. So they just don't understand the whole transhumanism, that you dying means you can just upload yourself into a new body. And there's a horror aspect to that as well, and squid people and all those sort of things.
Can somebody link the system, please?
I can do better. I can give you everything that they've done because it's all under Creative
free.
Commons.
Yeah, it's actually all free. Like, yeah, the only thing you have to pay is if you actually want the physical book. And the book is amazing. It's really good quality, and it's thick. Oh my god! It took me 2 weeks to go through the entire thing.
Yeah, and just the link to Wikipedia description. So I have never heard of it. So.
Yeah, we played Eclipse phase also, I think, the whole of last year. So me and my group really enjoyed that one.
It's in the chat.
Yeah.
I think really highly of Eclipse phase. I haven't had a chance to play through it, but I've really enjoyed reading through the books. It's a very nice setting.
It really
I like
is.
it.
Also, you mentioned about the twists you like to use on your games. Have you guys used sort of that? Let's say one of the players is not say playing in the same team, so to speak. Let's say in one of our games, I was playing a dark elf, but I had a magic ring that allowed me to be a high elf, so everyone else was thinking that I was a high elf when I was actually a dark elf.
Yeah, I use that occasionally.
I was on the receiving end of such stuff, and I really think it's hard to pull it off. It's either the players get it in the breaks, and then it's so, yeah, you can't notice as character because you notice this as player first. So and you're just projecting now, and then no reason is valid anymore for your character to notice this. Or the other thing is going on. So is he just a new role player? Did he just slip because everybody gets tired sometimes, or is really something up? So yeah, and when do characters notice this and when not? So we already have the whole new layer of we are playing something, and if you're playing something, then play something. Yeah, so it's not that easy to make it good.
I think there's a couple of like I mean I've done that and I've been on the receiving end of that before, and I think it can be a very powerful storytelling technique. But I found a couple of things you have to kind of watch out for. One, as I said, make sure like you actually give the players some form of an opportunity to find it out. If you don't give them any opportunity, then they just feel like, well, that's ridiculous. Why didn't we notice something? And then the other thing is make sure it actually plays into the story. And I mean, if it does, then it's cool. I think that's a great idea. And sometimes players, especially the one that gets to be that turncoat, they could love that sort of spotlight on them for a moment.
I recently ran kind of the almost exact reverse of that, where one player remained a player and the other players came in and effectively started playing their characters as NPCs, following specific aspects of the story and building the story towards its climax.
That's interesting.
How did all the players that weren't players feel about that?
Well, they were pretty good about it. They were their brief basically was to continue playing the game, but to progressively exclude the remaining player and their character to build up a sense of isolation and wrongness, and then accept in an NPC as though they were in the player's place, and to treat them the same and welcome them into the group as though the player had their entire life within the game just stolen away.
That seems harsh.
Yeah, I freely admit that.
You'd want to know your players well before you pull off stuff like that.
Yes, you do. I will point you back to the comments about having a social contract.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Keep bringing that up for all you budding GMs out there. Keep that in mind at the start of your game. Talk with your players and come to some sort of agreement about what style of game you're going to play. One thing that I found, like I used to like playing a lot of moral dilemma type games with my old role-playing group. Like, I'd throw out a moral dilemma and they'd be all over that. They'd and ah and they'd try and figure it out and talk to each other. And then my newer group, I had to throw up a moral dilemma, totally pragmatic about the whole thing. They're like, okay, what gets us the most loot and the easiest, most direct route? Let's just take that. And I'm like, you guys are a pack of monsters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know that feeling.
That's all right. And then you have them have consequences for their actions, and yeah.
That's true.
Consequences? Yeah, I threw in a decision earlier on in the campaign I'm running currently, which was basically they found Bound God as course of campaign. This is in Numenera, by the way. And they're like, he's extremely friendly and, no one can lie around him and that sort of thing. And he basically like, you can free me and I'll answer every question you ever ask. He's like, all I need is one of your eyes. And I was expecting that to cause sort of a pause, and people like, wait, do we want to give up one of our eyes for this? And is it really a good idea to free this god? Presumably he was bound for a reason, but one of the players is just like, yep, I'll do it. I'm like, ugh.
One of the things that I loved, that I find that I like to do in games, is to try and make players care about their characters and the NPCs in the world. For one of my games that I had, they were attacking this mansion. I can't even remember what it was for. Anyway, they were shooting guards and getting into like sword fights and everything like that. And one of the guards was bleeding out like near one of the players, and I thought, that guard's gonna talk. And so he starts cursing them and telling him that he's got a family, and starts like really personalizing the guards. It's fantastic. All of a sudden the players were like, oh my goodness, these guards are people, they have stories, and and so they started pulling back. That was, of course, my old group who actually cared about morals, so the new group doesn't care.
What is it about playing games that turns us into monsters occasionally?
Yeah. I think it's the lack of, something bad happens to you if you're a monster in real life. But if you're a monster in a game, it's like, worst that happens is I lose a game.
Well, I think that's actually an important point there, is, for me, I see it as people who approach RPGs as primarily a role-playing story side, and those who approach it more as a game. And it is both of these things, and I think they're valid. But I think I find that the people that are much more on the game side of things usually just they tend to think about things in terms of stats and numbers a little bit more, which that's all right. I think it is a game. But then the people that are into a bit more the role-playing and the storying and the acting, they try and project themselves into the world a little bit more and act as if there are consequences when really there aren't consequences because it's just a game.
See, I'm quite on that story end of the spectrum you just described, but I can become the sort of the Ayn Rand figure of what does the best for me on a character level, which is quite interesting, I find.
Well, part of it for me is what system you're running, because in D&D, I'm just like, I don't care. I'm going to be a monster. Because there's no interlock. It's just the system, the world, and it's like the world is created just for you to get loot out of it. But in something like Numenera or I don't know, World of Darkness or something, I find myself playing a character that's, reasonable and cares about other people.
Well, World of Darkness, it specifically provides a mechanical reason to not be a complete douchebag all the time through the various morality systems.
Oh yeah, I've still seen people do it though.
True.
Yeah, I mastered a vampire group once, and one of the players lost 3 humanity on the first day, but he was rewarded in game because he didn't do anything against the Camarilla rules, and yeah, nobody got a slip. And another player didn't lose a single point of humanity, but he was punished because humans saw him do something strange, not vampire-like. So the human didn't know he was supernatural. Yeah, he was catched doing something illegal. He was punished by the Camarilla. So that's the whole moral dilemma in Vampire. Really, made my group not like it because they just wanted to play monsters without repercussions. So the groups didn't stay long.
My group played Exalted for I think 2.5 years, and in that game there was much more character background stories than let's say the main campaign. So it's I think the White Wolf games are more storytelling games anyway. So
I found that actually came up a fair bit with people asking me about my system because Fragged Empire is like it's got that miniature tactical combat sort of aspect to it, and I think it does have a leaning more towards the gamey side of that spectrum. And I find that really interesting that there are a lot of people that didn't back the project because they're really into the storytelling type thing, and I think that's perfectly fine.
Well, damn, I'm unbacking now.
Well, you got 23 minutes to pull out.
I
And I actually, like, for me, I like that we have lots of different role-playing games because I think there's some fantastic storytelling type ones out there. I think there's some good, more gamey type ones, and I think the internet and Kickstarter have really just facilitated this. You know, if you're into a particular type of RPG, there's probably a rule system out there that'll help you. The problem is you still got to find players and a GM though. So, and all of you got the system you all like.
It's like, I'm into this RPG. No one else in the world is.
But I also think that no matter what game you're using, if you have a group of guys that are more into storytelling, then you can make any game system work for that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things that I love about role-playing games is you make it your own. Like, grab a rule system, but you're the one that gets to help set a lot of the tone, and you can always homebrew and home rule stuff. Like, I want people to grab my rule book and rip it to shreds. Like, I want you to add your own stuff and take out things. I want you to tweak it. I want you to make it fit your style, and I take that approach to every rule, like every game that I play. I'm like, I'm tweaking this thing. Like I played 4th Ed D&D a few years back, and I ran a campaign for a year and a half. My campaign was like lots of moral dilemmas, lots of twists and turns. Yes, there was some combat, but there was a huge character development stuff, and I made it work because I put the work in there, I told the story, and yeah, you can do it.
Oddly, I'm kind of the opposite. I really like buying a game and trying to really get to the core of what the writers were trying to do with it, and do that thing. I've got a lot of friends who just, they have a system that they love and they'll just do everything they can with it. But I think I like just to find the core of the thing that the writer was trying to do.
Yeah, and I agree that each rule system has a flavor. And I've tried to post that up about mine, like tried to make it sort of clear about the flavor, and that's why I did so many YouTube videos, because I want people to know what they're getting. How do you go about? Well, sorry. How do you go about having multiple rule systems, but then trying to educate your players to play multiple rule systems?
Well, I played with the same group for a while, but they're all friends outside of the role-playing system as well. So you basically go, these 4 people enjoy this type of game. I'll invite them to this session. It's like, these 3 people like just hack and slash. I'll invite them to a D&D game. So I only play with people I know enough that I can go, this is the rule system that they'll enjoy, or at least I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. With some people I played several different rule systems. So switching roles and switching composition, it's not always exactly the same people. And after a point, new rules kind of get fussy. So yeah, we get the basics, but nobody usually reads all or remembers all the rules, and it's just so that 20% or 30%, all the final points get lost. So if you don't care, you're more story-driven, it's not that bad. But if one of the players say, yeah, but it's the rules, I can do this, and all the others, what? Really? I don't remember. And then they make the GM unsure. It's not that fun. So sticking to one rule system or few rule system helps to smooth out the playing.
We usually have one or two guys who know the rules, let's say, better, and the rest will learn as we play along. So
yeah, a few years ago, one player was like, yeah, if Benjamin says it, it's right. So we don't have to argue, we don't have to read. I'm really the guy who always reads rules at least 2 or 3 times, so I remember most stuff. And other players really saw me, no, I don't think Benjamin is right. So we argue and we find out I'm right, and it repeats itself over and over again. But because most time, if I say I'm right about rules. If I don't remember, I just say. That's why I don't like D&D. I couldn't remember it all. It was just too heavy. And there's an option, and
we usually use this type of house rule that if we used something the first time, then we're going to use the same thing every time after that. So even if it wasn't 100% correct, we are going to still use it like it was used on the first time. So
yeah. I only played D&D for one evening, and a lot of players made really complicated characters with a lot of options, so half-breeds and multi-class. We didn't start at level 1, obviously, and all this stuff, and people look for me, so yeah, how does this work? I don't know, I didn't read up everything, so how does your character work? I don't know, I just made it somehow. And so we were basically level 7 or 8, but one character managed to be level 15 because of this half-breed stuff he didn't figure out right, and yeah.
That just doesn't sound very good.
That sounds like the dark days of D&D. Nothing was balanced.
Yeah.
But I run pretty much the opposite home rule that was mentioned before, which is if I say something on the table, or someone else who's running a game says something on the table, and they're storytelling, it's their call. If you can find something that backs up your point of view later, don't go looking for it now or in the middle of the game, then by all means take it to the storyteller, and we'll fix it next time. But don't stop the game cold just because you're like, that doesn't sound quite right, and spend 20 minutes leafing through books for it.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the things. Like the same as like it's all about like tempo of the night. I mean, you're running a night, you're hosting, like you've got, you're hosting an event. It's supposed to be fun. Don't get it bogged down with rules too much. Just make up an answer to whatever happens, and then look it up later.
Yeah.
That's generally what I like to do.
I think that's what most people like to do. Just do what feels right at the moment, and then if you figure things that was wrong later, fix it in the next session. But don't just slow the game down. Otherwise, you're not having fun.
Yeah. And I find it interesting, like the whole topic of well, we call them rules lawyers. You know, that the players that know rules really well and they like to read rules books. Those types of players or GMs can be really handy when they understand that a game's about accommodating everybody, and the rules aren't to be used as like a weapon. You know, you shouldn't use your superior knowledge of the rules against the GM or against the other players. Like, if you're doing that, then you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah, I kind of grew up with the opposite type of gem. He used incomplete knowledge of rules against as a weapon against the players. He basically used everything as a weapon against the players. And yeah, it wasn't my first gem, but it wasn't that fun most of the time. But we still stick together because we were the only people we knew that played. So it took me a while to overcome that learning in the beginning.
By the way, have you guys had some fun sessions when you are following the rules and let's say sort of the impossible happens? As an example, we were playing, I think it was like 10 years ago, we were playing old rules of Traveler. I don't know if you guys have played that sci-fi RPG, but my character was trying to fix this tower, and one of the NPCs sort of backstabs him by shooting him in the back with I think the equal is like the Magnum revolver, but it was a sci-fi version, and he was shooting it from, I think, from 1 meter away. So basically, in the rules, it was point blank, and he managed to got like 4 or 5 shots, and then he actually critted one. And then my character fell, I think it was 43 meters down to the ground, and I even failed, I think it was some sort of balance test, because I was luckily alive. And then when I hit the ground, I was still alive, because in Traveler, those rules that they just wouldn't kill you.
Okay. Wow, that story didn't go the way that I thought you were going to take it. I thought this was going to be an unlucky player death story rather than a very lucky player survived story. Yeah, I don't think I've come across that before. Normally, I think if someone falls that many meters, the GM usually just goes, sorry. Want to play an NPC for the remainder of the night?
Following rules are pretty interesting in terms of real physics. So, how deep a fall can kill you? Basically, if you just trip, you could die, but it's not that likely. On the other hand, there are reports that somebody jumped out of a plane and his parachute didn't go off, but he still survived. And sometimes even without that bad of injuries. So, yeah, here 1 week hospital and you're good to go. So
it's all about chance.
The thing about rules is also no matter what they say, when you kill a player, you ruin the evening for him. So if I have the possibility, I try as a GM all possible not to kill people.
I have as a GM have the rule: you get killed for plain stupidity. You don't get killed for bad luck. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a really good rule. If something is just plain bad luck, don't kill a player. Fudge the rolls, do something. But if you've kind of warned them, you sure you want to do that? You sure you want to do that? And then you get the dice and you're going to roll it in front of them. And you're like, if I roll more than a 5, it's going to kill you. And then they still say, yeah, then I think that's fine. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta try. No matter what, they just gotta try their luck and fail miserably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were playing. It was one of the fantasy RPGs. It was really long time ago. I don't even remember it, but for 5 sessions I had the worst luck. I died in every session, and I think 4 of those times it was just plain bad luck. It was one time I was walking in a mountain road, and there was a chance encounter with the mountain goat, and I had a 95% chance to evade, and I failed, and then I had like 2 other chances, like 80% to survive, and I even failed those, and then I died, and it was same type of thing with the other sessions. There was just a regular bar fight. I was if you look at my stats, I was clearly 5 times stronger than the guys I was fighting, but one of them got a lucky critical, and he just one-hitted me and stuff like that. So
yeah. I'll be actually interested to see how people feel about the death rules in Fragged Empire. Mostly because I kind of take a slightly different approach to a lot of games. It's quite hard to kill a player, but you can carry your wounds for multiple sessions if you're not careful. So I'll be curious to see how people respond to that.
Without having played, it kind of lends itself to unlucky criticals. So you have intelligence 2, and you get critted for 4, and next crit, and it hits intelligence again. So you're dead, 2 wounds and out. So if you play it like that, you can kill by bad luck really.
Well, the way the rules work is you've got to get to a -5 of an attribute to die. So a player's very unlikely to be killed from a single shot. NPCs die at 0, so you can kill NPCs with a good single shot, but it's a little bit luck. I'll be interested to see the feedback on that one.
Yeah. So, I really think the farther the game goes, and the more resources players can put into armor, the less relevant it gets, because you don't get that high a crit through your attributes. It really gets down. You need to take more crits to die, even if you have a 0 attribute. 0 represents an impairment, so you shouldn't do that. But you can.
Yeah, I find it. I've had a couple of players have really low in a single attribute, and there is that risk because it makes you kind of vulnerable. And I think the reason I've done the damage rules like the way I have is because I want to make a rule system that's good for long, ongoing sandbox-style games. So I want one of the things about long games is I kind of want the consequences of certain choices to carry on to further sessions, but also it means if you're a character, say for example, you're a medic or you're a surgeon, that's actually useful because you can decrease the amount of attrition damage the party is going to take.
It reminds me a bit of that point in Fallout where you've just raided a big base, you've got 2 crippled limbs, and you have to make the long limp back to your home place because you can't fast travel while you're crippled, and you're just like, am I gonna make it back or not?
We're getting a couple of Q&As from people. Also, we have 4 minutes left of the Kickstarter, so I'm going to quickly do the those questions. So I've got a question. What is the average crit value for small arms in Fragged Empire? So the way that crits work, they're called strong hits, is you roll 3d6 is your average roll to hit, and any roll of a 6 can be spent on a special ability or a crit. So that's how you do attribute damage. So it's a 1 in 6 chance for every dice. If you take, for example, a rifle, you can actually cause a strong hit on a 5 or a 6, so they're more accurate. I've got another question here. So this is from Ben. Very specific game design business question. What are your plans after the current fragged lineup is done? Ross Payton, Base Raiders, and other stuff was recently talking about the importance of just keep on making new games. I think that's important. I don't really want to be a one-trick pony, but that being said, I really want to put the next decent chunk, and we're talking years here, into Fragged Empire, because the books aren't even done yet. So I'm going to concentrate on the books, but as a person and a creative individual, I like being challenged and I like coming up with new stuff. So I'm pushing through these questions pretty quick. There's only a couple minutes left of the Kickstarter. And I sort of want to point that out because that's cool. It's great. Sorry, I'm excited.
Hopefully the book is good. I put down $30 for that book because I have to have my physical media.
Paul's got a question. Hey Wade, good to see you alive at the time of day. It's nearly 5 a.m. Yeah, so it's just almost 5 a.m. right about now. 2 minutes. And cool. Just want to give a shout out for Paul. Thanks very much, mate. Sorry, he's not here on the video, but Paul's been here right from the start. He was like number 2 or number 5 backer. And so shout out to you, mate. Thank you very much for your encouragement. I'm not quite sure what this next question is. I don't think it's a question. I think someone's using the Q&A chat. Oh, we're down to seconds now on the Kickstarter. Oh my goodness. 3 to 4 years and goodness knows how many hours, and we're down to seconds. This is cool.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard about your game was last year on the TG board when you started posting pictures about it. Like, oh man, this looks so cool, I have to check this out. And then somebody told me, oh, the Kickstarter is finally up. So I just pushed down the $70 for that book.
Thanks, mate. I've been floating around the internet for a while, so it's nice to see a few people take notice.
I'm ashamed to say I only found your Kickstarter 2 days ago.
Welcome to the party, man. I wonder if we're going to get
10 seconds left.
14.
Oh, wait, I almost forgot to ask. Will the Antagonist archives be on sale after Kickstarter? Because I want them. I want them so bad.
Yes, yes, they will be. There we go.
Congratulations.
I think we're done. Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, I just have to type in here. Awesome. There we go. I've now finished a Kickstarter. That feels kind of nice.
Yeah, congratulations.
I believe my homepage is now locked down, so I can't make any more changes to it.
Imagine the different game that you have now compared to your target goal of only 15,000.
Wow. Yeah, I
grown so much.
When I was first doing this Kickstarter, I'm like, I really want to do an offset print run, but I can't afford it. Okay, I guess I'll do print on demand, maybe.
Now we have 4 books.
Yeah. in all honesty, if I had have only made about 15 or 20, I basically would have just grabbed money out of my own pocket to finish the thing. But, yeah. I'm just going to sit here for a moment. Thank you very much for your support, guys.
Yay!
Coming and hang out with me. It's nice to chat to you guys.
Yeah, hopefully we can do some more in the future.
Yeah. Well, so I know that I'm not going to be as active now because, let's face it, I've basically lived on my Kickstarter page for the last month. So we've set up a subreddit, and that's basically where I'm going to be hanging out, and we're going to be doing the playtest up until we get the forums, and then even when we get the forums, we're still going to have the playtest. We're still going to have the subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
But
just a quick question. I never used Reddit before. Is it basically a chat channel or forum, or how does it work? I registered yesterday.
That's a good question, actually. So Reddit, the way that it works is that you make a post, and the post, people can upvote it or downvote it, and so the more upvotes you get, the higher it goes on the list. And eventually, like as your posts get older, they kind of go down the list. And so what happens is, and then people can comment on your post, but it's a really good system for a playtest because there's this sense of posts not being permanent in a way, because you post something and eventually it goes down on the list. It's pretty easy to use. Like, you basically just jump up, make a post like a forum post, and then people comment on it. But I'm keen to actually set up a proper forum because I would like to have more permanent community sort of areas where people can make more solid posts that are going to sit there for a long time, and like people doing short stories, and because I know a few people have been interested in that.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Just so you know, Reddit is a huge website, but we'll just be using one subreddit, so it's one small area. Yeah.
And beware of going to the wrong subreddits. They are really horrible ones.
Yes. Reddit does have a bit of a reputation for being very, I don't know, how would you word it? I don't even know how to describe it. There is a particular culture that exists in a lot of other subreddits, but that's irrelevant because we're just going to use one. Like, that's going to be the Fragged Empire one, and it's going to be nice and friendly, and everyone can just talk and very chilled and relaxed.
It's kind of the 4chan of now.
Well, at least TG Fortune's still decent. Quote unquote decent.
One quick question. How are you going to be doing stuff with community support? Are you going to be using stuff like Creative Commons or anything?
Okay, so the Creative Commons thing is something I'm going to have to look into because, how do you put it? My experience with the legal sort of IP protection stuff, like, I don't have much experience in that area. So for the moment, I'm keeping stuff pretty closed. But I'm really looking forward to, at some point, opening stuff up. Because, I mean, you can tell by my Kickstarter, a lot of it has been, hey, give me your ideas. And the idea of my setting is I want to inspire people to come up with stories. It's not my job to tell the stories for everybody.
Yep.
So I think that type of a culture really lends itself to being far more open-ended. And I've just got to figure out how to legally do that. And I don't think it'll be too hard because other people have done it. I just need to talk to them. And
I'd suggest talking to the guys at Posthuman Press. They did Eclipse Phase that we were talking about earlier, and they're kind of the poster boys for how to do Creative Commons well.
Yeah, they're really well known for that. Hopefully they don't see me as a competitor, but I'm sure that'll be nice.
Well, to be fair, Eclipse Phase is just straight up. How fast can your mind take all this science files and not cream itself out of your ears? Because it is some horror stuff in there, right there. It's all about the horror.
Yeah, that's all right. We're in different settings, so that'll all be fine.
Yeah.
The fact that you refer to as the event horizon of RPGs, you should be good.
Yeah. So that's one of the things on my to-do list is to figure out all the legal stuff and how to structure that, because, I mean, let's face it, a month ago, barely anyone knew of me. Like, I'm a new designer. This is a new IP, and I'm figuring out a lot of this stuff as I'm going. And I'm really thankful that I've got Modifius, because Chris, he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's done this multiple times, and he'll be out there to help me navigate all this sort of stuff.
Chris is a good bloke.
He is. I cannot sing his praise enough. He is the nicest guy, and he genuinely just investing in like me and my game and the RPG community scene. He really is a top bloke. I mean, basically, I think I'd recommend people backing his stuff and buying his products just because of how much he contributes to the RPG community.
And definitely,
fanboyness. I can be a fanboy too.
You should definitely all consider getting the Acton Cthulhu North Africa book.
God,
Just
that
saying.
book is amazing. Yes.
Oh, have you got it? So, Daniel, did you say you had it?
Action Cthulhu? Hell yeah, I did. It's Action Cthulhu. How can I not? The very game it's like anything but those people, Action Cthulhu, Stars with the Numbers. I have all of that stuff.
Chris makes good works. We're actually I'm looking into having a couple of his writers come onto my projects, so I'm looking forward to that actually.
Nice.
Oh, but I was forgot to ask, right? Like, how well would your game support like open world sandbox type of campaigns? Because I noticed that like a lot of sci-fi RPGs tend to really lend themselves into that style of gameplay, where you just create a scenario, create the sector, and just let the players run loose at it, and hope they don't destroy it completely.
Sorry, I missed the question.
Like how well does a frag support like sandbox type of campaigns?
Yeah, so I mean that's one of my big things that I encourage in long sandbox games. So the way that I've encouraging that sort of thing, I haven't done, for example, there's no charts to roll up planets and things like that. I think there's a bunch of stuff like that on the internet already. One of the things that I've done is try to create mechanical means to motivate players, which I find quite important in sandbox games. Because the sandbox game, the GM says to the players, okay, here's the world, go. And so I've got rules for what is your player doing, like what is their profession, what do they do during their downtime. And I'm hoping a lot of those sort of stuff will help motivate players to sort of explore the world and go and do things. I really like sandbox games. They're one of my favorites to run.
Yeah, I noticed like a lot of sci-fi games tend to go on that route. Like they really want the players to play these sandbox type of games, like except of course for Eclipse Phase, because that's just its own thing altogether. But stuff like Travelers, stuff about Numbers, even the new Star Wars game by Fantasy Flight Games, they're all like really lend itself to sandbox.
Yeah, I think because tied in very intimately with space is this sense of exploration. Because, I mean, I've got various theories as to why that is the case. But
I blame Star Trek.
yeah, I mean, it is kind of the final frontier. Well, at least, yeah, sort of in that way. But yeah, exploration is cool. And one of the things that I've done also is I've made a couple of large maps, and I've purposefully not filled it in. Like, I haven't written, I'm like, here's a solar system. I'm not telling you anything about it. But by putting it on the map, that should attract players to go there, and then you can put whatever you want there, like as a GM.
Yeah, I think it has to do a lot with that sense of exploration, like venturing into the unknown, see what you have, or in case of people, being Han Solo and being a smuggler, going from place to place.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having my spacecraft rules fully written up, because a lot of the way I've constructed spacecraft in my setting is that they're basically a mobile base. Do you actually build rooms and facilities and labs and workshops on there, and you sort of take that with you? Because I want players, you can wander off into the great unknown with your spaceship, and you're taking your home with you. It's cool that your home's got guns and shields and cool labs and stuff, but yeah.
Well, as long as it doesn't get too crazy like the 40K ships, where it's just an entire city up in space with thousands upon thousands of people, and you're like, oh my god, how do I roleplay this?
Yeah, no. In my setting, I've generally got the idea that most spaceships are sort of medium sized. That Millennium Falcon sized sort of ship. My thematic reason for that is because everything is so new, exploring space, and you got a lot of dangerous leftovers from the war. Small crew are nimble enough and able to change enough and flexible enough to be able to do that. They can take a job here and not take a job there. They don't have big maintenance costs, and that sort of an idea. But if you want, you can have big ships, because I've got that too, and you can also have fighters.
Ooh.
Yeah. Generally, it's designed for medium-sized ships, but you can go both ends of the spectrum.
So we can do the run to the Death Star. Sorry, the run to the not Death Star in Frag then.
Say that again. Sorry.
So we can do a run through the not Death Star trench.
if you want, yeah. I've tried to be quite flexible with my spacecraft size rules. The reason for this is that I find that a spacecraft size actually dictates the style of game a lot. If you've got big 40K style ships and big cruisers, that's a very different feel to that sort of game than if you're, a like Red Squadron, 5 fighters flying around. Like, it's a very different feel, and the tone of the whole game alters a lot. So I want to give that flexibility. But I do feel like it is the strongest for those medium-style ships still.
You get the Firefly effect there.
Damn it, Ben, you beat me to it.
What's that quote from Firefly? Is that it's the 10th character? Is that the one? The spaceship 10th character? Yeah.
So when I read your fluff stuff, I'm like, ooh, Nephilim, I want to make one of them. How much are you able to make? Not just I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, and walk around normal. Can you add in tails and that sort of thing, or is that really not something?
So I've got rules for that. Give me 1 second. I'm actually going to see if I can show you guys some art that I've got.
I'm not sure if it's one of the stories you can read without having the rule book already, but Rux has one of the Nephilim from the stories has a tail, if I remember correctly. Or was it another Nephilim from the stories? But one has a tail already.
Yeah, so let me just see. I want to see if I can set up screen capture. Tell me if this works. Okay. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a sketch. So I'm trying to do this is sort of showing some of the physical diversities between the Nephilim. And let me see. So we've also got let me just see if I can.
That's a little bit Scotsman Third Law.
Okay, so here's a little bit more. And this is not a sketch from my book. This is from another game. But just sort of showing the diversity within the Nephilim race. So you've got Hrax or the Gammas over here, and then the Betas, and then you got the Alphas here.
So are all player characters gammas, or can you play a beta too? And are there differences, or it's just fluff?
So the way that it works is you can be any of those, but I'm specifically sort of showing the Gammas a little bit more, just because they're more relatable, and it's a hot green chick with tentacle hair. So you know,
Who
sorry.
doesn't like that?
Kickstarter's over now. I can talk about marketing. Yeah. Anyway, so the way that it works now, this alpha is actually too small. So the this will actually be about up here. So the way that it works with my trait system is you select your race, and so there's one race called Nephilim, but then you've got extra traits, and some of these traits can only be taken at first level, and you can add those on, and that determines the nature of your character. So if you're an alpha, for example, you might take big extra limbs and like armor implants. Okay, granted that's probably like a level 4 alpha, but whereas you're a gamma, you're basically very similar to the other ones. Yeah, whereas betas are just weird and could be almost anything. They're the rejects of the Nephilim society.
They're the poor bastards.
Yeah, well so that's kind of the Nephilim's thing, is that more so than any of the other races, they are biologically and physiologically diverse as a species.
That leads into the next question I was going to ask. Is every alpha that big hulking monster, or some of them ones that weren't combat units, if you will, are smaller and less murdery?
Yeah. So definitely quite diverse, but you probably will find they're all kind of murdery. They were designed in some capacity.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah. So is my picture coming up, or?
It is.
Okay. I'm figuring this thing out. So the way that the Nephilim work is they really do vary a huge amount. In my last game that I was playing myself, a Nephilim alpha who was 1.5 foot tall, and another guy was playing a Nephilim alpha who was about 7 foot tall. Because the term alpha is just a term of generation. They were made during the war. It's not a particular breed of Nephilim. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Smallest alpha of them all!
One of my I want to show you guys my pictures now, actually.
Sounds good to me.
Let me see if I can just get my second screen up. Oh, you've seen. Let me just see. You've seen this one before. So this is a Nephilim spaceship. I really like this spaceship because it's got that whole biological sort of thing happening with it.
Is it actually biotech or is it mechanical?
So it is biotech. So it's actually sentient. It has a mind that is its computer, and a nervous system, and yep. So it's living.
Very cool.
Yep. And because biotech's a big part of the setting, and the Nephilim are kind of the biggest embodiments of that.
It's one of the things that really sold me on the setting was the second singularity thing. We've had the technological one ages ago, and now here's the synthetic biology one.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I kind of wanted to... The world is sort of in tiers, if that makes sense, as in first tier, second tier, third tier. The first tier is humans era, and that's very electronic. And then the second tier is the Archon tier, and that's biotech and new races. And the third tier that's where we are now. It's that whole new beginning. What is this one going to be? Will Exion come back? What's this psionic nonsense? What's out there? So, yeah.
The whole naming convention thing, was that drawn from Zoroastrian myth? With the Archons and the Nephilim?
So, I've tried to come up with thematic structures for the namings of each race. So Archons, I've gone for celestial and infernal type names. So Archon is, I believe, is like a type of angel, and Nephilim is a biblical term. Comes from Genesis. It talks about how, while I'm not quite sure exactly what the Bible means by its use of Nephilim, the pop cultural thing is that whole angels and demons and humans breeding. And so the term Nephilim is actually the name the Archons gave them. The Nephilim did not name themselves the Nephilim. And so that's why it's that way inclined. And the same thing for Exion, it can also be pronounced other ways. Sorry. Yeah. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and with the Legion are very Greek names. Then you've got the Corporation are kind of bit more modern type names. The Nephilim names actually of the individuals. So alpha, betas, and gammas are actually the terms that the Legion gave them. Because Nephilim have never named themselves like that. They've always been very individual. And their individual names, for example, Hirax and some of the other names are actually based off a little bit of Klingon. Now, the reason I've done that, now it's actually a really important reason why I've done that, is I didn't want to base the Nephilim names off any real-world culture, because my setting does explore humanity and real-world cultures, and because Nephilim are kind of the monster bad guys, I don't want to, imagine if I gave them German names. I'm like, I'm not picking on the Germans. So
everyone else does, so...
Yeah, and then, what if I gave them American names or Russian names or African names? I don't want to be picking on I don't want it to be mistaken that I'm actually commenting on a culture.
So you don't want to fall into the George Lucas trap?
Yeah, I guess so.
The fact that every single one of these pictures has more pink above it.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. So this is actually just some work in progress art. So the pink are actually my notes. Okay, and so these are the mechanids. These are one of the bad guy races. So these are leftover war machines. So
yeah, these guys really excited me. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so the idea is that just like how the Nephilim are the leftover tools of war of Exion, the Mechanids and the Legion are the leftover tools of war of the Archons. It just so happens that the Mechanids don't want to work with anyone else. So, yeah.
Our jerk.
So they've been kind of fun.
Are these
They are
guys?
really cool to look at.
These are some other work that I'm getting done at the moment. So I'm getting, this is from my artist, Niam, if I pronounced her name correctly. She's a fantastic character artist. Really happy with her stuff. And I really like the personality that she puts into things. And so she'll be doing, everyone who pledged at the level to get a character made up, Niam will be doing your characters. That's right. But I've got so much.
Oh God, how many tentacle heads would you have to draw? Oh.
A lot. Yeah. This is one of my favorite pieces, actually. Let's see if I can bring that up a little bit bigger.
Ooh, that's actually cool.
So that's, I'll show you that in the, I'm showing you guys the book now. So this is done by Paul. He's one of my character artists, and he's been designing a lot of the cultures along with me, and he does fantastic spaceships. The problem is, I don't think he likes doing spaceships that much, though. But he's amazing at it. He wants to draw characters, but I'm like, I want you to draw spaceships. So,
well, to be fair, since some species are biological, they're technically characters.
Yeah, I'll try and convince him like that. But that's all right. He does. This picture, I really wanted to encapsulate a lot of Fragged Empire. So you've got this biological ship over here. Then you got technological electronic ship over here, and this sense of exploration, because you sort of, and a little bit of danger because you got this long thin cord, and that's all that's holding him there. So.
And space graffiti.
That's
I
right.
love the graffiti.
Oh yeah.
Have a nice day.
So, oh man, I have so much fun with the graffiti of the corpse signs. Every single corpse sign is graffitied in some way. I can show you my. See if I can bring this up. This is my master document here, aka the thing that I basically live in these days.
Just like pans back and it's 1,000,000 pages long.
Oh, I mean, let me just. The page count it's a 384 pages, so yeah. It lags up my computer. Come on. There,
Is this your first experience of doing layout work, or are you? I think
no,
you said that you have a background in graphic design, but.
Yeah, so I've been doing graphic design for a while, about 10 years now, but I've self-published before. My previous work was a photography and a history book. Yeah, so this is just the contents page, and yeah, and that's where that art piece goes along there.
That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys have seen all this stuff before. This is in my sample PDF, so if any of you guys can download the first 30-something pages, yeah, which is all this. Scroll. Oh, I really like these pages. So I've tried to do these sort of infogram pages. I'm wondering if I full screen this, whether that's going to break anything. Oh no, it works.
Hey.
So I've got these pages here, and they sort of walk you through some of the main rules. So this is how do you make a character, you know. do this, then do this, and your attributes, then your skills, and then stuff. And then it just sort of starts walking you through the rules.
That's nice. I like that.
So I've tried to keep it quite a clean design.
Yeah, that actually works really well for introducing new people to the game because I notice a lot of games like I have this game called Fantasy Craft. Love the rule system. The layout is shit. So I have to read like 5 times and then I have to explain to somebody else how do you play the game.
Yeah.
I
think,
occasionally.
yeah.
I remember one rulebook which had like the like full page prints behind the rules, where it's like the same one on each page, but it made the page impossible to read because it was behind it was in front of like a graphic, and I'm just like, I can't read this. The graphic's in the way. No.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I view as being very important because I really like nice rules and I like good communication, and so having a clearly laid out book will helps that a lot because I want to make it as easy as possible for people to read my book and enjoy it.
Yeah, people with topic sensitivity will find it really difficult if you've got any kind of fussiness or, the wrong color. So.
Yeah. So I mean, this is still a fairly rudimentary layout. I mean, this is one of the most boring ones because it's got no pictures. I mean, that looks cool because it's got a picture, But so I'll probably end up adding some nice texturing to the bottom of these because these are my short stories. And then I might redo these page numbers here. I'm just not sure. We'll see how I go. And the reason I've got these blues on the side is because when you print the book, you'll end up with that color along the spine, and so you can flick to the section that you want. Because say, for example, red, that's combat, and you'll just look at the side of your book, and you'll just turn it, and you can just instantly go to the red section.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and just more stuff, how to make skill rolls and all that sort of stuff. Picture goes here. Yeah. Anyway, lots of stuff. That's another Nephilim alpha. There, you guys have probably seen that one.
They always look so grumpy.
Yeah. They've got the whole monster thing going on. Yeah.
They are living war machines.
Pardon, sorry?
They look grumpy because they are living war machines.
That's right, they are. Cool.
Well, it's been awesome, but I have to go, because otherwise I'm never going to be able to get up in the morning.
It's 5:30 in the morning for me, so I've already kind of written the night off. But thank you very much for coming by.
It's been amazing. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands on your rules so I can fiddle with them.
Sounds good. Well, in a couple of weeks, I'll send out the thing to collect people's emails to get this playtest started. But I'm really looking forward to what people have to say, and I think polishing and balancing the rules, like that's what the playtest will help the most. Like that, and that'll be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm gone.
Cool. Okay.
Have a good one.
See you later, man. Oh.
How big
what else I can show you guys?
How big will the difference be between the alpha and the beta rules? Yeah, so spaceship will be fleshed out and stuff, but will anything major change, or will it just minor stuff?
I'm currently redoing the cover rules a little bit. I would say, because I mean, for those who are a little bit late and didn't hear me earlier, I am giving out rules straight away to people who really want them right away. If you just send me a message in Kickstarter, I'll email those to you. But I'm polishing the rules. I'd recommend waiting to the beta in a couple of weeks, just because it just makes it a little less confusing, because I'm just going to be tweaking things, and the beta is the one that is going to be most of the work.
So when exactly with the playtest, like, do you have a general idea when it will start or no?
pretty much, well, when I send the files out in a couple of weeks, that's pretty much when it starts. I mean, we're kind of already doing it now. Some people already have their hands on the alpha rules. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. So a couple of weeks. Oh, okay. I probably should make a Reddit user thing. God dang it.
Sorry to bring you guys all to Reddit. I know it's like this whole another website I have to use.
It's because I'm just so used to 4chan and the fact that I don't have to log in for them, so it's another username, another password I have to remember.
Alright. I have the worst Reddit username. I really need to make myself a new one. It's so embarrassing. I'm not even going to say what it is.
I know it.
You're all going to go to Reddit now and have a look at me and see what I am, but I just need to change it to Wade or something normal. Anyway.
It's Reddit. There is no normally. It's just le Reddit, as they say.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for doing the videos as well. The rules explanation stuff in a video form is a real godsend.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great.
My idea is that I'm hoping that people will have the rulebook in front of them, plus a printout of the character sheets, plus the video, and it should make it easy, because I know this is a new rule system. It is a little bit crunchy, and I'm trying to make that as easy for people as possible.
Well, but still, like, that's actually the videos what convinced me to actually put the money down, because the art was beautiful, but beautiful art is beautiful art. It was those videos, like, it was, you know what, this seems interesting, I want to be a part of this, $70 down, boom, I want the book.
Yay! Videos worked. I'm hoping to make a few more videos, and as I get better at videos, because they were my very first videos. I've never done video before those, and you can kind of tell. But I'm hoping to, as I get better, I might update them. So, yeah.
Well, you already step ahead of the Pathfinder developer guy, who watched one of his videos, and I just closed it. I couldn't understand a single word the hell he was saying.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the Pathfinder guys want to send me an email and pay me to do videos for them, I will. I'm surprised, does D&D have videos?
Yeah, they do actually. They have R&D videos and playstyle videos.
Okay.
They've been doing some actual plays on Twitch, I know that much.
Yeah, and they post that up on YouTube. They also post up like their R&D sessions on YouTube as well.
I've missed that, I'll have to check that out.
They also did some cooperations with Penny Arcade.
Okay, yeah. Did you guys see the Dice Stormers actual play of Fragged Empire?
No, I can't say I have.
Oh,
Little bit of it, not much.
Okay, I was very impressed by their playthrough. Like, I know it was very short and they didn't really do a very deep game, but they have some nice production value for just a bunch of Aussie guys who just like doing it because it's just a fun project to do.
Yeah, I need to give that a listen to. I know I got this game 13th Age, and the reason why I got that was because I heard a playthrough of it through the radio.
Okay. Through the radio. Wow.
Well, it was one of those internet radio things. Like,
okay, yeah.
Who uses the radio anymore? Nobody.
Old people, I'm told.
Yeah, my grandpa bought a new one this year. The old one finally crumpled.
That's all good. Cool. Okay, I think we're probably getting near the end, guys. I think I'm pretty tired. Yeah. But thanks very much for coming and having a hangout with me for the final couple of hours.
Yes, thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the subreddit and the forums when we eventually get it. But if you ever want to just send me a message through Kickstarter, just do it. I answer everything. I'm always happy to chat, especially since you guys gave me money to make a book. I'm very grateful for that.
Not as much as originally going to, unfortunately.
So good. Cool. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop broadcast now. Thanks very much, guys. I hope you have good afternoons, mornings, and evenings, or whatever time it is for you guys.
And good night to you.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm gonna try and reset my body clock now. It's almost 6 a.m. Jeez.
Thanks, Wade. Talk to you soon.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.